they put in your contracts, there's a term, a clause that says the phrase conduct detrimental.
Yeah.
When you ask a lawyer what that is, a lawyer will tell you absolutely anything they want it to be.
Really?
So if you wore red shoes into the facility, they could arguably say, we're going to fire him because of conduct detrimental.
Damn.
You know, like it's basically whatever they view as detrimental to the team. And there's no, it's not, what is it? It's subjective, not objective. Welcome back to another episode of 217 South Mills.
Brought to you by Cabin Coffee Altoona, located at 2922 Meadowlark Lane in Altoona, Wisconsin.
And Pizza Del Rey, located in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So we are getting started off today with some breaking news in the last week about Richie Incognito, who about 10 years ago was accused by Miami Dolphins offensive lineman teammate Jonathan Martin for bullying him. And it was a national headline in the NFL. And it was the bully scandal. It was called Bullygate. Basically, Jonathan Martin accused him of bullying him and also using racial slurs. That reopened some old wounds with Jonathan Martin, and he claimed mental health and ended up quitting football.
Right. And one of the greatest names in college football, or in professional football, is Incognito.
Incognito, absolutely, especially being an O-lineman.
I remember hearing that name, when this broke, and that name has always stuck in my mind as like Incognito is a great last name for offensive line.
Yeah.
So.
And he was a rock solid dude.
Stud.
You know, not one of those guys that you see the belly fat or anything like that. Like built out of stone. Yeah. So long story short, it was 2013, and here's the other funny thing too. Jonathan Martin was 6'5", 315 pounds, claiming bullying in the NFL.
Yeah.
And me and you both know from high school, it gets worse in college, and it even gets worse in the NFL, the locker room. And we hear people say, oh, locker room talk, it's not that bad. It's worse than you think it is. I mean, when you're a family, when you're teammates, and you become from teammates to family, there's no hold bars. Right. And like nobody cares. The slurs that are being used, the words, the derogatory terms, the belittling people, and I don't know, it's like a sign of love inside the locker room. Like if you're not getting made fun of, something's wrong with you. If nobody's talking to you or joking with you, or you're just sitting in front of your locker, something's wrong.
Start to worry.
Yeah.
Because you might not be here tomorrow or next week. And
yes.
This kind of locker room mentality transferred over to law enforcement. Very similar, if not a little bit worse.
Yep.
There is nothing off of the table. It's basically a competition as to who can say the most egregious thing about somebody, and then it becomes relentless. And the funnier it is, the more it sticks to you for a longer time.
Yes.
Nicknames.
Yep.
Mistakes you've made. All of a sudden,
I go back to Lambeau, and I still have teammates of mine and Lambeau personnel that call me Fee, like F-I or F-E, because there was one player, Barry Stokes, that used to pronounce my last name Fiorio, and they just shortened it to Fee. And to this day, when I go back to a game, half the personnel there, they're like, hey, Fee, hey, Big Fee, what's up? Like Kevin Berry, when we saw him at the game I think we were at, Kevin Berry's like, hey, Big Fee, what's happening?
Right.
Like, he's KB, I'm Fee. It sticks, and it's there forever.
Correct.
But back to the story. This is absolutely insane. First off, that somebody took what happened in the locker room and took it outside the locker room. So he's saying he's being bullied. Mm-hmm. He takes it outside the locker room, complains. And then 10 years later, I guess ESPN's doing a story, and Jonathan Martin's quote was, I never believed for a second I was being bullied, end quote. And he says he's been trying to fix the story for the last 10 years.
Can you imagine the amount of bullshit that Incognito went through? He was let go, I believe.
Yep. He was first suspended indefinitely. He missed 8 games, which is half the season.
Yep.
For people that forget, I keep saying this over and over and over, the only guaranteed money you make in football is the money you made yesterday. Mm-hmm. So you get paid by the games you play. You miss 8 games, that's half the season, you lose half your contract. Right. So for instance, if he was making $2 million that year, $1 million gets held back from him because he's not on the roster for the last 8 games. So that messed with him. Now he gets cut. Now he's got baggage and a black eye coming out of this story. Right. So everything in the future is tarnished all because of this story. And me and you talked about this off camera. If I'm Richie Incognito, I'm first going after Jonathan Martin.
Mm-hmm.
First off, he probably doesn't have that much money, but I'm still going to attack him and try and ruin his life a little, eye for an eye. But then I'm going after the NFL, and I'm probably starting at like $100 million, assuming they're going to settle around 40 or 50 million, because essentially, factually, he lost probably $1 million, $2 million. But essentially, it could have been $20 million he lost, and it was $20 million 10 years ago that he would have had. Who knows what he could have done with that money? So, yeah, I hope Richie Incognito sues them for everything they got, and I hope he gets a phenomenal lawyer. I hope he wins. He did go off the rails in a good way on social media, bashing Jonathan Martin, and most importantly, bashing Jonathan Martin's mom. And here's the end of the story is this is sort of where a little bit of the truth comes out, that he felt he was going to get cut, Jonathan Martin. And for easy math for fans, if you sign a 4-year, $10 million deal and you get $1 million in the signing bonus and you play 1 year and you either quit or get cut after 1 year, that's 25% of your contract. So you, number one, you don't get the other $9 million in your contract. Number two, of that $1 million signing bonus, you have to pay 75% of it back to the team. So say he had $1 million, he quits after first year of his contract, he has to pay $750K back to the Dolphins. Well, his mom comes out, and this is the way the story is leading you, is the mom was the one that said, there's bullying going on in the locker room, Richie Incognito's using racial slurs towards my son, blah, blah, blah. She told, I believe it was Adam Schefter. And I believe her thought process was, use the mental health, quote, it was mental health, it ruined his health, that's why he has to quit. And basically, it's come out that he didn't want to pay back his signing bonus. And that's how this whole thing started. But what a shit show Richie Incognito had. And think about him, his family, I don't know if he has kids. They all had to go through this and but they had to discredit for the last 10 years. No, my dad's not a racist. No, my dad didn't bully you. No, my dad didn't do anything that's outside the realm of football or a locker room. They had to say that for 10 years. Now the guy comes out and goes, no, it was all a lie.
I'm at a loss. And if I was Richie Incognito, I'd go after ESPN, Adam Schefter. I'd go after every person, every freaking person that slandered his name and basically ruined his life, because other than having a cool last name, when you hear Richie Incognito, the first thing that pops into your mind, he's kind of an asshole and was bullying another teammate. And the funny thing is us being in the locker rooms, when I first read that, I'm going, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Bullying? Holy shit.
Just the word bully, because even from college to the NFL, it's not even so much a thing in college to haze. And that's pretty damn popular in the NFL. I mean, they'll tape you naked to a goalpost. They'll, like the things they'll do to you.
The amount of hair you have too.
Oh, me, no, they couldn't do that.
Well, first of all, you're sweaty. No, the tape wouldn't stick. It would require a shave. And then a tape.
A shave, a drying. They'd have to have fans on me, all that stuff.
That's just way too much.
I do feel for Richie Incognito because I do understand what it is trying to fight lies. So I feel for him. It's tough to sometimes, let the fans and family know that something was misrepresented. But moving on to the world. So this week is sort of current events and what's going on in the world. And one of the things that popped up on my feed was most watched sports. Joe, this freaking blew my mind. I mean, let's start with the NFL. The NFL, and rightfully so, they're a multi-billion-dollar business. They're making all this money. They're trying to go worldwide. We see every year there's another game that's being played in Mexico or Germany or Europe, somewhere in Europe. They're trying to expand it to make football a worldwide sport. And we know it. We see it. We see the Super Bowl. We hear how much the commercials are. And it just seems like Super Bowl is the biggest and best thing out there. In my mind, it surpassed baseball a long time ago. That was America's pastime. I look at this sheet, and it's 1 through 10. 10th place is the NFL for fans. And it has 400 million fans.
And it's tied with basketball at also 400 million fans. And I have a hard time believing that basketball and football are on the same amount of fans.
Especially if we're only talking professional, where NFL obviously is only professional. If you're talking NBA, I can't see that either. But now I'm going to flip-flop a little here to number one. So football's 400 million. Soccer's number one, which rightfully so, I would assume soccer was one. But the number, 3.5 billion. And we did that quote earlier on, the difference between a million and a billion. A million, I think, is 11.7 days. A bill in seconds. 31 or 33 years is a billion.
Yeah.
So soccer is 3.5 billion fans. Now, going down the list, and the first couple are understandable. Cricket, 2.5 billion. Now, number 3, field hockey.
Yeah.
When I was growing, I think that's a thing that Kelsey, Kylie Kelsey played. It's like the wooden stick, not a hockey stick, but a wooden stick with like a nub on it. And I think that's field hockey. So no ice, you feel on turf. Yeah. To me, that was the rich kid sports.
Right.
I only thought like prep schools and hoity-toity colleges, like private colleges. Like
I just thought it was like a club in college. I didn't know it was actually.
Well, I think at regular schools it's a club, but yeah. So I don't know how it got 2.2 billion. Tennis, 1 billion. Volleyball, 900 million. Volleyball is more than 2 times the amount of fans as football. Now, 6th place, and the one I'm going to leave you with, Joe. This is the one that blows my mind. 6th place is table tennis, basically American ping pong. Yep. Now, I know
Chinese people
likes watching tennis, and they like playing tennis, and they're good at it. And I know they got a lot of people in their country. But 850 million? That's more than twice football.
Yep.
To watch ping pong.
Yep.
I mean, I know guys play it all the time in the locker room. That's always a lounge type deal, ping pong. But
I'm not gonna lie. The only time I've ever watched a ping pong competition, I think, was in the Olympics. And I will say, it's pretty freaking amazing.
It is.
I mean,
watching them curve it and stuff like that.
And watching the are they called volleys in ping pong?
I'm assuming
so. No idea if it's called the
volley. But do you think you can watch a season of it?
No.
That's what I'm saying. Like the Olympics, the best of the best in the world.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll watch it. But now the funny thing about this list too, my bookmaker in Florida, he likes listening to this. He's going to probably start betting on cricket and freaking table tennis and all that stuff. So
maybe some field hockey.
Maybe field hockey. He's that field hockey type.
And my one question is, where's highlight? Because I thought highlight was.
I thought highlight's like the curved, like the scooper, right? Like the big curved ice cream scoop thing. Yeah,
and because we're old.
Yes.
They in the beginning of Miami Vice, they featured.
Yes, the highlight. Yeah.
Like
now, I do think there was a time when highlight was the most actively bet sport in the world. So like the most wagers were on highlight. I think that's the big popularity. Because I think that's like, isn't that like a Thailand or something like that? Like
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure at one of the bowl games, we went and watched as a team with the Badgers. We went and watched a highlight competition. There's no other reason in this world why I would have watched it.
It had to be Tampa. We'd have to reach out to the bookmaker and see if he knows about it. Because it had to have been. We were in Tampa.
I almost wonder if we were in Tampa, and that would have been the Outback.
Because that would have been Outback Bowl. Or no, because it wouldn't have been Cotton Bowl. That was Arizona. And it wouldn't have been Rose Bowls.
Right.
Those are California. So it had to be Tampa.
Right.
Got to ask the bookmaker.
There you go.
Highlight.
Place
your bets. All right. Now some exciting news. I don't know if you saw it at the Super Bowl, post Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes' father, who is a former professional baseball player, got in a altercation with John Rocker, who is also a former professional baseball player. Now we know Patrick Mahomes Sr. has had some run-ins with the law. Basically, he gets called into court when they hear about this feud, and he discloses to the court. And I thought this was a joke. I thought it was just to get him out of trouble, that it was basically a fake altercation to get publicity because they signed up to do Barstool Sports Rough and Rowdy boxing match. Right. The two of them are going to box each other. So it was basically set up. And I don't believe the judge believed them. And he brought in the contract, which was signed and dated like 2 months prior to the Super Bowl. So it was all legit. I saw the altercation many times, a couple different angles, and I'll give him credit. It looked legit. I thought Rocker was pissed.
Do you remember John Rocker from back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
Braves, and he got in trouble for doing an interview, making like some sort of racial slurs about riding the subway.
Yeah, there's like garbage people in New York and all that. Yeah.
But by the way, freaking Rocker still freaking rock. He's jacked.
Oh, yeah.
You see his arms and
everything?
Oh, yeah. Holy crap, that guy is still put together.
Yeah. He's one of those athletes that just didn't change.
Yeah.
He looks like he just got off the mound
freaking huge
last week.
I don't know, Pat Mahomes Sr.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too. Like, I think Rocker's got the power. So, once again, I'm sure my bookmaker's going to jump on top of this.
All right.
But don't take my word for it. I'm just giving opinions. I think Rocker's got the power. Maybe Mahomes Sr.'s got a little bit more stamina. But is he going to be able to take a punch from Rocker? Now, I do believe, I'm trying to think now in Rough and Rowdy if they wear headgear or not. I don't think they do wear headgear. I think it's just boxing gloves.
I wouldn't even wear gloves.
And you go out there and fight.
Just
That
bare
would be
knuckle.
sweet.
I would
Bare
just bare
knuckle.
knuckle fight.
That'd be nice.
I mean,
I bet you.
I would think that Barstool would have enough money. I mean, you throw enough money at anybody, they'll go bare knuckle.
Yeah, but I bet you any amount of money, it's too much with the law, like too much legal. And I bet you any amount of money, too, I bet you it has to be sanctioned.
Oh.
I almost wonder if they got to be sanctioned as boxing because they're paying the fighters.
Yeah,
so technically, they're professional.
Interesting.
All right, up next, another interesting story. Deion Sanders. Obviously, Deion's always in the news every single day, but it's amazing, from prime time back in his playing day when people you either loved him or hated him back then. And I think people hated him because of the style, the swagger. Speaking of which, swagger, I know there's always new words coming out, but I'm going to ask you this question. Just be honest with me. Tell me if you agree or not. I believed that Coach Alvarez in 1997 invented the word swagger.
Probably.
Did you ever hear the word swagger before Barry Alvarez?
I don't think so.
Because I remember he was like, when you walk out that tunnel, you got to walk out with a swagger.
Yep.
When you go here, when you do this, you got to have a swagger with you. And I'm like, I never heard that word before Barry Alvarez. Now I hear it.
I knew he had it. I didn't know how.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't know how you would describe it.
You didn't know what it was, but he had
it.
Yeah,
definitely had it.
Absolutely. So the big news now with Deion Sanders is he's saving Colorado $200,000 a year due to their travel budget. Right. Deion does not travel. Deion's basic thing is he's taking guys from the portal. We talked about this before. That's what the portal is hurting is high school athletes because he's not going to high schools. He's not going to try and bump into somebody like our day. Oh, let me talk to the coach and I'll bump into Joe or Bill as they're going to the weight room or what did you just to size him up, shake his hand, talk to him for 5 seconds and I didn't really see him. I just bumped into him. He's not doing that. Right. He's not traveling. He's not visiting kids. He's not going to games. And his thing ultimately is he wants the parents and the kid to come to Colorado and fall in love with the school.
It's beautiful.
Rightfully so. And here's the thing. He's got the ability. He's winning out there. He's got the name. He brought the number one player, Travis Hunter, number one player coming out of high school, or at least number one DB coming out of high school, took him to Jackson State, took him from Jackson State to Colorado, and turned him into a Heisman Trophy winner. It's like he can't, anything he touches is turned into gold.
I agree.
So he's got not every coach has that ability. He's got the ability to say, I'm not coming to your high school. Or if you're in the portal and I want you, you come out here and tell me if you like it. Right. Bring your parents out here. Let me know if they like it. Let them see where you're going to be. Let them see what you're going to be doing. And he's doing it the right way. Now, you look at some other coaches, and this is the mind-blowing part of, I don't even know if this budget would cover the other coaches. This is from 2022 to present. Jim Harbaugh, when he was at Michigan, made 145 off-campus visits. Steve Sarkisian made 128, and Chip Kelly made 55 during that time. I mean, that's unbelievable. 128 or 145 visits. Right. Like, that's insane.
That is insane.
It's absolutely
you're on the road all the time.
Between airfare, car, hotel.
Yep.
I mean, you're blowing through $200,000 real fast.
Absolutely.
So just to think, that's another thing. Just everything Deion does. Like, Deion doesn't mess with NIL money. But he doesn't need to because he's bringing in enough money from different products, different stuff he's selling, and getting the players what they need and keeping them happy and keeping them in Colorado. And see, that's the thing too. When everybody started leaving Colorado, all these reporters are like, oh, Deion can't keep the team there. No. Those are players Deion doesn't want.
Right.
Those are players that coaches don't talk to. Those are players that other players don't joke around with. And it's like, look at the writing on the door. Right. It's time to leave.
And that the fact is that he has that kind of a clout with his name and what he's done in professional football, as well as a coach at Jackson State and what he's doing in Colorado. If you don't have to travel, if you talk to any coaches, I don't think traveling and going out and recruiting is something that they enjoy doing. It's kind of the crappy part of the job.
How much time it takes out of your life, how much time it takes away from your job. And think about how many, your family, all that. But just think about work. All those hours you're on a plane, in a car, at a high school, you could be in an offensive meeting. You could be planning, months ahead what you want to do. You could be planning the recruiting deal as opposed to just going. These coaches, that's one of the reasons I never wanted to be a coach. I mean, they are just moving and shaking nonstop.
I think you were telling the story even in the season when you were at the Packers that, even coming home late at night, the coach, the locker or the coach's office lights were still on at way past.
Two days before the game, 3 days before the game, they're in the office 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. I mean, in college, most colleges, I'd say, I think this is a conservative number saying they're not getting home before 11 at night during the week. And there's probably some there later, some maybe a little earlier. But, everybody thinks whether it's professional football as the athlete or coaching in college or pros, that it's just a 9-to-5 job. It's not. I mean, like, look at, here's another fact that I looked into when I did consider coaching for a second. This was like 10 years ago. There's certain high schools, now granted, they're elite high schools, but certain high schools in Texas, like where similar to like the Friday Night Lights, like the Dillon Panthers and those schools down there, their head football coaches get like 140, 160 grand a year.
Mm-hmm.
They don't teach gym. They don't teach health. They are the football coach. Now, granted, you don't win, you ain't staying around.
Correct.
You lose a game or maybe 2 games at worst, and you're done.
Right.
But they're getting paid money. You think they're going home at 5 o'clock?
Nope.
Like, they are working nonstop, trying to outwork the other coaches, trying to get their players to be the best. And not everybody realizes that. So, yeah.
I think the best position should be in would have been Mark Peeler being the equipment manager. I'm just saying, I'm throwing that out there.
Absolutely. He rocked it.
Yeah.
Now, how about the guy and I can never remember the guy's name before. Do you remember the story about the guy before him?
Nope.
Here's a good story for you. And Peeler, it doesn't affect you, so you shouldn't be upset. So the guy before him, Peeler was an assistant, I believe. And the reason Peeler got the head job, the head equipment guy, our freshman year, wasn't Peeler. It was like some dark-haired dude. He got fired.
I didn't know that.
You know why he got fired?
No.
He was taking issued gear and having yard sales at his house. I think in Verona.
Get out of here.
Yard sales with fucking
brand new
issued gear, jerseys, travel pants, with the numbers in them. Like, this is there's 33. That's Rondain's pants. Like, selling everything. I have no idea. You got to figure he was making easily 50 grand a year from selling shit. But I think he was selling so much, then he was ordering so much more, just numbers were out of whack. And somebody, I think just randomly, somebody in the athletic department happened to be driving through his neighborhood and see all this freaking red in his front yard and driveway. And they tell the school, they're like, this dude's having yard sales with issued Wisconsin football gear.
That's
so he lost his job. Peeler took over.
Now it's going to bug me that I don't remember who this guy is. So I'll have to look it up and see if I can't find him on.
I know you'll figure it out by the next episode.
I'll have to go through like the archives and do of the Google machine and try to figure that out. Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, younger guy. I'd probably say 30s, dark hair. That's all I remember. Average build, taller than Peeler, bigger than Peeler. I mean, Peeler's below average type of guy, but. I'm just saying, what's Peeler, like 5'7"? Like, I'm not disrespecting him.
I'm just a guy who's not, like, excessively tall.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you're about Mark Peeler.
I'm almost 6'4". Just saying. I'm closer to 6'4" than I'm 5'4".
As you've aged, you've gotten shorter. But
I have.
I don't know how to tell you that.
I got a pie plate going on the back of my head. I'm freaking shrinking. We got Seinfeld on. I got shrinkage going on. It's like, what's happening here?
If you'd like fresh roasted cabin coffee delivered directly to your door, go to Cabin Coffee Altoona's Facebook page or 217 South Mills Facebook page. Click on the coffee order form link, fill it out, pick out your beans, and get them delivered directly to your front door. Cabin Coffee Altoona.
All right, the last thing we got for today. This was brought to us by the Hammer from the East Coast. He's always on top of college football, that sort of his genre. And I like what he sent. I'm really liking what I'm hearing. Now, none of this is NIL because obviously still we're one of the few podcasts or news sources that discuss NIL or transfer portal. But what this is about is the playoffs, is about the conferences. And the biggest thing here, and it's a little contradictory in the same article, is it's looking like they are going to increase the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's either going to be 12 teams, 14 teams, or 16 teams. Right. They say... I'm not sure the explanation on 12, but they say if it's 14, I believe the top 2 teams will have a first-round bye. If it's 16 teams, nobody will have a bye. Mm-hmm. So that's one big difference. A couple things they put in guarantees in this decision-making, and it's ironically, it's the SEC and Big Ten that are running the show. Mm-hmm. I don't know if everybody gave up the power to them or just said they have the most teams involved, that's why we're going to allow them to run it, but they're running the show. So the 3 main things they said was, 1, they are going to increase the teams. 2, the highest ranked conference champions out of the Power 5 are going to be automatic bids. Mm-hmm. Thank God they're not getting buys like last time. We don't need a Boise State debacle like we had last time. Like, hey, if we want to put them in the playoffs and let them lose in the first round, that's fine. But we're not giving a shitty team like Boise a bye to the second round. And then the last deal they have in the rules is protection for any independent schools, such as Notre Dame, that as long as they're ranked high enough in the top 25. And that's where it looks like they're pulling from, the top 25. And they might do the top 25 college playoffs, but pulling whether it's 12, 14, or 16 out of there. Now, Joe, we always talk about money.
Yes. That's what I want to know is where's the money going?
Yeah. And obviously more games, more money. So schools have already come out and said they want an extra $5 million for every extra game they play. Rightfully so.
Right.
I mean, they got to make up this athletic budget for the revenue sharing. There's a lot that, and they know the amount of money that it's making college football. Now, to what you're saying, where's it going? So ESPN, and I can't believe, we don't know jack about NIL. Right. We know barely anything about the portal, but we found out ESPN, this is from the Hammer, ESPN is paying the college football playoffs. Well, first off, let me start back here. They signed a contract to broadcast the playoffs, ESPN, through the year 2031. Mm-hmm. They are going to pay the college football playoffs $1.3 billion with a B, $1.3 billion a year through 2031.
That's insane.
So, like me and you talked about, like now let's go back and look at this last year at the playoffs. And fans, don't quote me on this. I'm just spitballing here. I think it was like first round, each team got like $6 million. You make it there. Next round, it was like, say, 10 or 12 million, whatever. I think the Ohio State and Notre Dame winning or getting a national championship, I think it was like 20 million. So if you add up 20 and you go backwards, I'm going to say a high number that I know the college football players were not at, and I'm going to say 100 million. There was nowhere that schools got $100 million. But let's say it was 100 million. Now at a 1.3 billion, you got 1.2 billion. Is that the right math? 1.3. The 3 is, yeah, it's got to be it.
Did you carry the one?
I don't know. I might have to carry the one and do the division table. But let's just go with it that it is 100 million. So 1.3 billion goes down to 1.2 billion. Where does that 1.2 billion go?
That's what I'm wondering.
So is that going to the NCAA? Is that only going to the college football playoffs? Because that's got to be a separate entity.
Right.
I'm assuming maybe it's underneath the NCAA, but it's a different entity. Mm-hmm. Is it going to all the conferences that made the, like, 1.2 billion a year? Where is it going?
I don't know. And that's the problem that people don't understand. We've been saying that college football is a business long before NIL, before all the crap.
When we were playing, college football before we were playing,
is a business.
Yeah.
And it's a very lucrative business.
Yeah.
But you're right. Where does the money go?
Yeah.
Do we need to get freaking Elon Musk in here to find out where the money went?
Get Doge in here to break down the college. Because literally, let's look at the college football playoffs as a company. I'm sure there's a president, a vice president. You got all these people. Is that company, the CFP, college football playoffs, are they making the remainder of the 1.3 billion after they pay the college football teams? But that's a lot of freaking money that ESPN's paying. And where is it going? Now, if you told me it's going to be dispersed all throughout college football, and now you have extra money to pay the revenue share. Exactly.
And do all the things.
Exactly.
And for smaller teams who don't have that kind of, money.
Yeah, the budget.
That's a great way for you to get some top talented players, throwing some money at them. But it's hard to believe that they're going to be just distributed equally amongst the teams. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I guarantee it's not going to happen. If it was going to happen, it'd be plastered all over this article.
Right.
But once again, as we say about everything, follow the money. Where's the money? No transparency. And it's an interesting question. I mean, here's the thing. We know with the NFL. Now, here's a different comparison. I want to say it was 15 years ago was when the concussion settlement came out for NFL players. And the settlement was $1 billion. Mm-hmm. And my argument was, I said it should be 10 billion, not 1 billion. Right. And this doctor friend of mine, I won't elaborate on who he was, but this doctor friend of mine said, that's too much money. And I said, well, wait a second now. Do you know how much the NFL gets paid just off of TV rights? And he's like, I don't know, like 10 million. I go, no, you said it wrong. 10 billion. In 2010, they were making $10 billion a year off of TV rights. Mm-hmm. Now, that money doesn't go to the players. Right. That money goes to the NFL and the 32 owners.
Right.
They're probably divvying up the 32 million. The NFL probably keeps X amount to keep it running and stuff like that. But, so yeah, with this, it's like there are no owners. Is the money going to colleges? Is it going to the NCAA, which we already know has how many thousand employees, which Doge should go through the NCAA and be like, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. Mm-hmm. Maybe reduce that down to like 20 individuals.
Right.
we might even take that over someday, Joe. So one of these days when you come to the studio, I might be like, hop in the car, we're going to Indy. We're going to storm the NCAA.
I would be really impressed with that, though. If I showed up one day and you said that, I'd be like, let's go. I'll drive.
Let's take it over. I mean, we could do a much better job. I guarantee that. We'd be open and transparent and truthful with the people and the fans. But
all right, I got one more thing to say.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about this. Go for it.
I want to give your son a shout-out again. Freshman phenom Chris Ferrario this past year started for DC Everest, my alma mater, and he got recognized a little bit throughout was it the nation, isn't it?
The Prep Red Zone, yeah. I'm still trying to figure out if it's, I believe there's a national ranking he got and also a state ranking he got for his position on the O-line. So, yeah, it's just, and the funny thing is he's one of the most humble kids or athletes that I know. Similar to me, probably more humble than me. Like, I mean, yes, I know I spoke to friends, but outside of friends, I'm a humble individual. But for him, like we used to say when we were getting recruited with letters, you could wipe your ass with the letter from the college because it doesn't mean shit. And that's essentially this too. It's a good, positive recognition that he's getting noticed. I'm sure he's proud of it. His mom and I are extremely proud of him. All his family and friends are proud. But for somebody that young that put in that much work so far to get that recognition is something very special. We think it's Prep Red Zone and Prep Red Zone Wisconsin that did the rankings. So it's special to be on that list, to be a part of those other great athletes. But he understands more than anybody, now's the time. You got to go back to work. You got to work that much harder. And, something we're going to be talking about in upcoming episodes when it comes to leadership is my attitude. I'm sure your attitude and his attitude today is there's always somebody out there trying to outwork you. And that's, like something for fans and kids that are listening to keep in your head is no matter how much work you put in, somebody else is trying to do it longer, harder, better. So, you might not see your competition, especially when it comes to high school sports. Like you never saw me, I never saw you. We never saw Ross Kalaj or Chris Janik until you get there. But those guys are working. Like there's guys trying to take your scholarship. There's guys trying to, like when we were at Wisconsin, they're always a new recruiting class. Or going up to Coach Huber going, why did we give this guy a scholarship? And he goes, to take your job.
Yep.
That's
it was that.
Yeah,
late,
yes.
It was that.
Yeah. Because I who it is that got recruited. It was the year after us. The year after us. And I went in his office, knocked on the door, and I go, why did you give that guy a scholarship? Dude's like 6'5", 330. He goes, to take your spot. And I smiled. He goes, I'm serious, to take your spot.
Yep.
I left his room, went right back to the weight room, started hitting the weights. I was like, screw that. Like, it ain't happening. But that's what I think kids, adults, everybody has to realize. Somebody's always trying to outwork you.
But different time, too, because if that was said today, oh, that's cool. Let's go to the transfer portal.
Yes. No kidding. No kidding.
I had a bad day.
Yep. Coach
made me feel bad. I'm going to go.
Yes.
I'm going to go. I'm transferring. I'm transferring.
The kid doesn't even have a scholarship yet. He's not even there yet. I'm going to transfer. He brought somebody else. All these kids, the freaking Tate Martell. Me and the kids used to love watching QB1. Tate Martell was like the number one player in the country, number one quarterback in the country, number one offense player, number one player overall. I think that kid transferred like 5 times in college. Went to Ohio State. Who's the quarterback now with the Steelers? Played at Georgia. It's Justin Fields. Fields came to Ohio State. Kids are like, oh, Justin Fields just came here. I'm going to transfer. Goes to Miami. Can't win the quarterback job. Switches to wide receiver. Can't win the wide receiver job. Transfers to another school. Then transfers to like Texas El Paso. Shout out to Chris Francis, but Texas El Paso. It's where we played the Sun Bowl. And I got to know after I was done, Chris played for the Packers. Yeah, he played at UTEP.
Interesting.
So shout out to Chris.
Very cool.
But
congratulations to him, and a great kid, and he works his ass off. So couldn't happen to a better kid.
Well, thank you very much. I know he appreciates it, and it's fun watching him. So.
Awesome.
Thank you guys. Tune in next week, and to thank our sponsors again. Want to thank Pizza Del Rey, based out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin,
and we're going to thank Cabin Coffee Altoona, based out of Altoona, Wisconsin. If you need fresh coffee, folks, I got it for you. Let me know.
Sounds good. See you next time.
Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of 217 South Mills.
If you like what you heard, smash the like and follow buttons on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and X.
We'd like to thank our sponsor, Cabin Coffee Altoona. Tune in next time, folks.